How's it going, everybody? Happy Friday. It is March 28th, 2025. It's Melinda Weather Chat here. I have some very exciting announcements to make. This is my first official YouTube upload. I did some research and had to learn a little bit in a short time, but I officially know how to do screen recordings and live. Basically get to tell you what I'm looking at live data-wise and get to tell you a little bit more in detail about what I'm doing and why. But anyways, I wanted to take a quick moment to introduce myself. My name is Melinda. I am from South Central Illinois. I am based out of Cumberland County near Toledo and Neoga. And all my life I've been truly fascinated by severe weather and just natural weather phenomenon across much of the Midwest, but especially here in Central Illinois. So I'm very familiar with the types of weather we have around here. I have a huge, profound love and respect for Mother Nature. I love wildlife, nature, thunderstorms, all different types of weather that she produces, and I just love to showcase that. And some of the ways I like to do that, I like to provide awareness if there's incoming changes in weather. So I'm going to begin by discussing our potential for maybe some strong to severe thunderstorms on Sunday, March 30th. So really quick, this is just what I love to do. Wanted to show you that really quick. This is my Flickr page. I do other photography as well. So I'm going to jump over to the Storm Prediction Center from the National Weather Service's homepage here. And I wanted to show everybody this page really quickly because if you've never used it before, much of their research and forecasting tools, data that they provide, is what a lot of news stations and media outlets are basing a lot of their forecasts, or at least a lot of their forecast discussions off of. So most of your local news stations, your media pages on Facebook or X, whatnot, you're going to be basically kind of seeing a recap of information provided from these people here at the National Weather Service. So they do an absolutely amazing job at providing us these numerical models and some analysis data just to help us make sense of what's going on in the weather world. So specifically, I'm going to focus on the convective outlook portion because this is what we want to look at if we want to see the chances for risk of severe thunderstorms, and we can see a lot more besides that as well. But I'm not going to get too in-depth because I want to keep this under 15 minutes, but I want to show you some of the likelihoods for severe weather, the modes of severe weather to possibly expect, and maybe what to kind of see with it. And I'll kind of help you understand a little bit better as I go along here. So we're going to jump to day 3, which is Sunday, March 30th. As you can see, we are level 3 out of 5, which is an enhanced risk of severe weather across much of the upper Mississippi Valley to extending into the Dixie Alley there, portions of the Ohio Valley. So essentially, let me turn my population density cursor on there. So you can see areas like St. Louis, Memphis, Nashville, portions of Little Rock, Arkansas, upper, right along that Mississippi River area there, essentially, into Ohio Valley. Those are the big areas to look at for potential for maybe a stronger likelihood for some stronger thunderstorms to develop, with the potential to produce maybe some severe weather into Sunday afternoon, into the overnight, into Monday, okay? So I'm going to turn off the population really quick, and I wanted to cover some of the details really quickly on what this means. So on their day 3 outlooks, they're not going to show you each individual parameter for probabilistic category for tornado or wind or hail necessarily, but they're going to have just a general probabilistic outlook. And if you are in this hatched area here, this is the 30% probability is simply meaning that within a 25 miles of a point or a location, there is a 10% or greater probability of significant severe weather within 25 miles of said point, okay? So within this area, this doesn't mean every single person is going to get damaging wind, hail, tornado. It just means your chances increase slightly the closer you are to 25 miles of an area. So based off the populations we have and population density in those areas, not to mention some of the dynamics we have in place, which I'll quickly go into detail on here after I continue this spot here. It's just to give some consideration to be weather aware on Sunday afternoon, evening, and into the overnight of Monday, okay? And very early Monday morning. So with that extended probability of severe weather likely this many days out, we have a brief understanding then that, hey, storms are in the forecast. It's probably time to, prepare. If I have any weekend plans, especially Sunday evening, if I think I'm going to grill outside, I need to keep an eye on the radar. I need to have a plan to maybe get inside or get to a safe shelter if there's a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning issued, or even a tornado watch. Just have a general awareness of weather. That's the whole key of these videos that I'm going to do. With this being my first video, I'm learning some of the loopholes, so just bear with me. If I make any mistakes, I will quickly learn where I've done wrong. But I'm going to jump over to my next parameter here, which is going to be looking at some of the forecasting data behind what is going to be some of the culprits of maybe some of the storm mode, as well as maybe some of the significant more impacts from this potential severe weather system on Sunday evening for a majority of central Illinois. Now, since I am from central Illinois, I'm going to be mostly basing a lot of my discussions around this general area here, okay, where I'm circling around. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying I don't love my neighbors. I just love to focus on central Illinois because that's my geography, that's where I'm from. A lot of my loved ones and family are from here, but I have most of my followers from the central and south central Illinois area. So if you are not in this area, I promise I love you just as much. I just don't focus on outer areas as much. So when you hear me speaking about types of weather as of this point forward, I am focusing more on central Illinois, not necessarily south of here or east or so on and so forth, okay? So now that I have an idea from the Storm Prediction Center, hey, there's a chance of storms, I'm going to look at what's going on, and I want to know why, because I like to know why. So I'm going to jump over to this layer showing different runs and sections and portions of the atmosphere. And I'm looking at the 500 millibar layer of the atmosphere first and very first thing, okay? And the reason being, I want to see what's going on with the contiguous United States. I want to see what our wind pattern looks like, upper level winds aloft. I want to see what direction they're flowing. I want to see how fast they're moving. And I want to see especially if there's a storm system incoming or potential of a frontal boundary ahead of it. So all this is really showing me at about 18,000 feet above our heads, this is telling me, hey, some strong upper level winds aloft. I am currently looking at Sunday, very late Sunday at 6 p.m. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit, okay? I'm going to go all the way back to about present time. So right about now, about 3 p.m. today, this is Friday. By the way, whenever you're looking at model runs, not to be too techy, you want to make sure the valid time that you are looking at, that timestamp on there is extremely crucial to knowing exactly about when you're looking at something happening, because it's in Zulu time, so 21Z doesn't mean 21 p.m. You know what I mean? It's going to be, you want to take, you want to go to this site here if you want to follow that link. Zulu time is universal time, so it's going to take that, and everybody is in a nice even time bracket, but you still have to convert it to your time. So since I'm in central Illinois, I'm converting it to Central Standard Time. So I now know that 12Z, for example, is 6 a.m. So I'm going to go back to my model here, and I'm looking at 3 p.m. today. So this gives me a general idea. I'm currently sitting right underneath a ridge. So a ridge is where mostly high pressure dominates the area. High pressure is affiliated with fair weather. So right now, as I'm actually looking out my kitchen window, I know that it's nice out, pretty breezy, but I have some nice sunlight. I have really warm influx of temperature out there. I have probably out in the 70s right now out there. So just a beautiful day. And ridges are generally associated for the most part with fair weather in the most case, but in some cases we get some disturbances, which I will talk about here just shortly. So really quickly, since I covered that, I'm going to inch forward now into the next couple days, and we're beginning to see a pattern shift here in our jet stream and our upper level winds. So if you ever listen to your meteorologist on the news, they're going to talk about there's a pattern change coming. Well, or if you hear there's an active weather pattern, well, this is kind of the reason why. So as this belt of upper level winds in our atmosphere change with height and also change direction, we have what are called disturbances in them, and this here is called a shortwave trough. A shortwave trough generally is just kind of a bowl shape in that level of the winds there, and what this is going to do is it's going to eject outward, and it has an ejection zone here. And right in this general area, we have a maximum vorticity, or an area of low pressure that rides along those troughs there, okay? So at the outer edge of those troughs, we will sometimes have low pressure systems, and frontal boundaries like to ride along those too. So not to get any more technical, I now see that there's a pattern change by about Saturday night. I know that there could be some different weather coming, and along and ahead of that front, there could be a chance for precipitation. So now as we get into very, very early Sunday, we now see that frontal boundary moving in, and as the winds begin to tighten up, as that low pressure system deepens and matures, we see the winds tightening up and wrapping around that, which I'll show you the vertical velocity just to give you an idea of where that circulation is. We can see along that low pressure system there, see how the vorticity is kind of maximizing out. So that tells me that area of low pressure is deepened a little bit, winds are tightening up around it, that pressure gradient's a little bit steeper, and we have a little bit more gusty winds ahead of it. And sometimes those winds can mix down to the surface with precipitation, which is why we have a threat for damaging winds as well with some of the storms on Sunday. So with that being said, I have an idea of the disturbance. The kinks and ISO tax there just gives me a general idea. Again, I know that there is a shortwave disturbance in our atmosphere, and disturbances often provide lifting mechanisms for storms to develop. Cut, sweet, simple, and to the point. So now I know what the upper level wind pattern looks like. I know what to expect. I know there's a storm system possibly riding along that. And now I'm going to look at temperature. So now that I'm looking at temperature profiles, I can tell that there's a cold front because, check that out, really cool air on the backside of this incoming front into Sunday. So this is about 9 a.m. Sunday morning. Now I'm going to change my sector view since I've covered that for the most part. So now that I'm looking at this, I'm looking at a closer view of my temperatures. So I have a better idea. I have wind barbs facing out of the south-southwest, so I have some really nice warm juicy southerly flow, and that southwesterly flow is going to bring an influx of warm temperatures in the warm sector ahead of that cold front there, okay? So with that being said, I know I've got some really nice warm temperatures up into the 70s, almost 80 in some areas. Reaching looks about 75 there by the St. Louis area. It'll be a beautiful day before them storms come in. And now I'm going to look at dew points. Dew points are a very good understanding of just knowing where the moisture is at in the surface of the and very lower level layers of the atmosphere. So when you're looking at your dew point, you know that there's moisture, very rich concentration of moisture surging out ahead of that front with that warm influx of moisture coming out of the south with those southwesterly winds flowing aloft. Not to mention upper level winds aloft have a nice little bit of a westerly, southwesterly motion to them. I know that I have some change of wind with height, which is also known as wind shear. So I'm going to jump over to my convective parameters, and I'm going to show you my potential energy for storms. So not going to go too far into depth on this, but this is surface-based convective available potential energy, which is known as CAPE. CAPE is simply a nice way of saying how much gasoline do I have to run on, or what priming does my atmosphere and surface have for storm development or lift for storms to develop, okay? So now that I have that in place, I know I have some instability, and you don't need a lot of instability, honestly. Sometimes you just need a front to provide some lift. You don't need a lot of instability, but I know that I'm very well primed in my area, okay? So that's all I need to know. And then I'm going to jump over to look at my low-level winds and get an idea of that lower-level winds. So I know winds are closer to the surface are going to change with height as they approach. And that means that those storms are going to have some nice low-level condensation levels, and the level of free convection is going to be pretty close to the surface. So that tells me there's some really strong moisture aloft at the surface, and I have some really good winds. So I know that there's a possibility there could be some really strong organized storms. And last but not least, I'm going to look at the simulated reflectivity to show you kind of what to expect, the mode of storms. So last but not least, between as early as 1 to 2 in the afternoon, we may see some storms fire up ahead of that front. But once they get into Illinois and into Dixie Alley, they're going to really begin to fire off. So you're going to see kind of a weird break there. In that time frame, we're going to see storms fire up, but like I said, it's going to be just a big line of storms, and that line of storms could have some kinks and breaks in it, and there could be potential for maybe a couple spin-up tornadoes along the way because of those kinks in the line. But I have the ingredients there. I know what to expect. Just be aware on Sunday that severe weather is possible. All modes are possible. There could be potential for damaging winds, large hail, and maybe a couple spin-up tornadoes as it ventures through south-central Illinois, guys. So just be weather aware. And keep an eye on your radars, keep alert, and keep your eyes to the sky. And most importantly, have a wonderful weekend. I will be doing plenty more videos to come. So thank you for watching, guys.